want to welcome you to today's session. I recognize we're wrapping up 3 long days, and I appreciate you all joining us. I will say I feel a little bit like a school teacher with the class all in the back half of the room. Only 2 of you joined in the front row, but that's okay. I'm not going to take it personally. My name is Terry Brown. I'm the moderator for today's session, and I'm joined by 3 panelists who are going to help me talk with you about the keys to unlocking new opportunities in insurance. So first, a little bit about me. I grew up in this business. I have been doing this since I was 10. When I started as an independent agent, and in order to feed my very expensive habits, I had to look for ways to write as much business as I could, and therefore I kind of gravitated towards those carriers who offered the easiest way of doing business. And I made the move from the independent agency to a regional property casualty company where it was the same thing but on steroids. I was faced with figuring out how to get all of the agents that represented us to write more of their good business with us. Everybody wanted it faster, and obviously everybody wanted it better and cheaper. And after 17 years with that carrier, I moved over to InsureSoft. I've been with InsureSoft since 2005, and again, more of the same, except now we've got 40 plus companies, insurers and MGAs that use our Diamond system, processing business across personal and commercial lines across all 50 states. And just like I was as a carrier, they want everything better and faster. And so technology really is kind of the backbone behind any new opportunity in insurance. You've got to look for how do you attack that best business? How do you go after that market? And how do you do it quickly? How do you figure out what that market is? And then how do you deploy the technology rapidly to take advantage of it before the next guy does? That's what we do at InsureSoft. We are constantly looking for what is the next thing we can add to our core product and our platform so that our clients are able to grow and accomplish their business objectives. So I'm excited about today's discussion because I think it's going to really talk about how we can use data to identify what those opportunities are, and then what you need to do from a software standpoint or a technology standpoint to be able to deploy those changes more rapidly. So we've got a great group of people here with us, and I'll start with their introduction, starting with Tarek.
Hi, my name is Tarek Timol. I am the CIO and Group Head of Operations for Hallmark Financial Services. We are a specialty insurance carrier. We write multiple products, multiple product lines, vast distribution channel. We use a number of different policy administration systems and claim systems, just like most carriers do. And we're very excited to be here. You know, one of the things I'll mention is the way we work at Hallmark is really working with partners and not vendors. And InsureSoft is one of our partners. And so I'm happy to sit on this panel and kind of participate today. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Pier Westra. I'm with Allied Trust Insurance Company. We're a relatively new regional carrier based out of Tampa, Florida, writing personal lines coverage in Louisiana and Texas. Being fairly new out of the box, we are finding new ways to do what we do and trying to do it in the most efficient manner possible. As you know, a smaller company getting started up may not have the resources, financial resources necessarily to go in and play with the big boys, but you've got to find ways to do things differently, and that's what we've been working on and are continuing to work towards with InsureSoft and Caboodle as a partner, and very excited about where it's going, and again, very happy that they asked me to join them in talking about what we're doing and how we see things going.
Hi, I'm Broussard. I'm the partner and data and analytics practice lead at MVP Advisory Group. Spent my whole career in insurance on the data side, 15 years as a developer, and then eventually became CIO at a mid-size international carrier that did both life and annuities as well as property and casualty work. Then spent 15 years at IBM as an associate partner for 12 of my 15 years there. I was responsible for IBM's global insurance data products and services, So obviously very focused on large builds and custom solutions and allowing companies to leverage their data, and then spent 7 years, left IBM and joined Insurity to get into the vendor side of things. And at Insurity, we created the first vendor offered data product, and we're able to implement that in over 40 companies and very successful there. And about a year ago, I returned back to the consulting with MVP Advisor Group. So we've been a partner now with InsureSoft and Caboodle, and very happy to join the panel today.
Great. All right. Well, thank you all. I think for today's discussion, I think we'll get started talking a little bit about investing in technology and how you figure out which projects you want to focus on. Tarek, I will start with you and ask you this. The title of our session is Unlocking New Insurance Opportunities. But before we get there, can you help the audience understand a little bit about how Hallmark assesses new opportunities?
Sure. Thank you. We like free. So whoever's going to give us technology for free, done. We can do it. We really don't differentiate technology investment from any other type of investment at Hallmark. And, we pride ourselves on being opportunistic in the market. And whether that means a new product set, new specialty product line, new claims process, whatever it is, we listen to what the market is calling for and create solutions that address those issues. So our technology lens in terms of kind of figuring out where we want to invest is really no different. Whether that's an internal look at processes, what can we do better, what technology is out there that works, that is proven, that we can rely on and leverage to fix an internal process to maybe create capacity, whether it's endorsement processing or F-null intake or whatever the case might be. And then we score things. We are a large enough carrier, but certainly not one of the largest. And so we've got a finite set of resources. So we've got to be smart about where our investment dollars go, not only on cash out the door, but our resource allocations, right? Because everything has an opportunity cost. So, we do the traditional IRR and ROI and opportunity cost model studies and come up with use cases and business cases around the investment. And then once we know that this is something that we do want to invest in, then we have to really take a hard look and say, okay, where does this fit in the priority? And then once we meld all of that together, we come up with an answer and move forward and get something invested. Our focus at Hallmark is really on delivery. And Terry can attest to this because I call her a lot of times saying, we want this new thing, whatever that new thing might be, and we want it always yesterday. That's always my answer. But we've got to be smart about how we can allocate resources and prioritize. But we take a complete holistic view in terms of technology, specifically as it's going to address a problem. The last thing we want to do is buy technology for the sake of buying technology. It's got to be something that is strategic, that fits within our corporate direction and our strategic roadmap. And if it ticks all those boxes, and maybe it's a little bit more expensive than free, then we can do it. And that's kind of how we move forward and look at our technology investments.
Thank you. Pier, how about you? Can you help us understand how Allied determines whether to make new or additional technology investments?
Well, like I said, we're fairly new. I can't say we're a startup anymore. I think you get 3 years, and we're just past 3 years. So really for us, it's been working on the implementation of what we had to work with. You come out of school and you can't afford a Ferrari. I mean, that's just plain and simple the way it works. So what can you do? You can buy a car that is a reliable, efficient, good, solid car, and then maybe you soup up the engine, and then you work on the suspension. So you've got something now that's powerful and nimble. And I think that's kind of the way that we're looking at things right now. We're just trying to get out of the starting gate and up to that next level. It's, to me, if you're going to look at a piece of technology, it's got to either improve your efficiency, it's got to improve the customer experience, or at this point for us, it's got to improve our access to data. So, so much of what we do is driven by data and being able to utilize it. And really, I think those are kind of the key pieces that we look at. I mean, I'm with Tarek. If it's free, it's for me, and it'll bolt on. But again, it's looking for the fit. It's not getting technology for technology's sake. It's how does it work in with what it is that you want to do. And for us, as we look at things like that, it's not a planned out process. It's usually something that you pick up through colleagues, you pick up through the field, you're talking to agents, you're finding out about, excuse me, something that's out there that's going to work. And then it's finding out if that's a fit, within your existing platform or what you're doing going forward.
That's good. That makes a lot of sense to me. Bruce, I know that you work with a number of insurers of all sizes, and as well as vendors like us, and you're typically looking at what is their data strategy. Can you help us all understand why so many of us are investing in a data hub strategy at this point, and what some of the benefits are of having that?
No, absolutely. As he said, data is so central to everything that you do. Your core policy, billing, claims, reinsurance, general ledger, CRM systems are obviously very important to your ability to operate and execute and serve your customers. But the real value is in the underlying data within those systems and the ability to aggregate it, not only from those core systems internally, but from external data, unstructured data, social media, and other sources. The ability to cut through and bring data together is so critical, and the core systems just aren't architected to support that, right? And so having a data hub and a repository that is independent from those systems, where you can aggregate, collect, analyze, make data available to the different people that need it, whether it's for decision support or advanced analytics, or for sharing with partners, addressing regulatory and legal and other issues is so important. And so bringing things together in a non-proprietary construct that allows you to work with the data in business terms that your business users can really swallow, consume, and be effective with is so critical.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with the need for the data to be usable by business users, because they're the ones that need it and benefit from it the most. Pier, in terms of Allied, I know you've made a renewed investment into improving and broadening your analytical capabilities over the last year. Can you share a little brief description about how the project and about how it has improved your access to data?
We've done a couple of things. I mean, similar to what you're talking about, we haven't built a data warehouse, but we've got a mirrored server that we can now go in and be able to access our data using SQL to run reports and get usable data. One of the things that you have when you start off out of the gate with a platform system that's prefabricated is you get canned reports. And canned reports are just that. I mean, they're limited in what they give you, and you can patch things onto it, but unless you truly understand about how those canned reports are pulling data and how it's reconciling it, and if you've got reports that seem to show the same thing but they're showing different numbers, then it's a struggle. So one of the things was getting our mirrored server up and running and then being able to query against that, which has helped a lot, especially on the product side, underwriting, our actuarial group. But the other piece was in our transition to a new third-party administrator, we got access to the Looker tool via Caboodle. And with that, we now have far more granular, actionable data. We've got very functional dashboards now that we can take, and I mean, from a tactical standpoint, look at it on a snapshot basis. You look at it in the morning, you can kind of see what's going on, but then you can click through, drill down, look at individual claims data, and that has really been, from my wearing my claims hat and not my operations hat, has been a real game changer for us. We are better able to drive the business, drive our processes. We better understand our metrics now, and we're seeing very good results as a result of that. I mean, our indemnity average paid is going down, cycle times are dropping, all the needles are moving in the right direction, and I mean, that's just a testimony to good data.
That's impressive. And Tarek, I know you mentioned looking at the data, analyzing what your needs are. What are some of the analytics projects that Hallmark has invested in, and what have been the outcomes?
Sure. So, we started about 4+ years ago, and the first thing we needed to do with respect to analytics is kind of do some of the things that Pier mentioned. with respect to the existing data set in terms of cleansing our data, getting our arms around, well, what data do we have? And that was a challenge, and quite frankly, continues to be somewhat of a challenge, though we're making a lot of progress. One of the things that we've done specifically around data and analytics is formed committees, cross-functional, cross-business unit committees. We think of data and analytics as cultural, so we tend to not think of it as a project, right? So for any of my project managers out here, for us, it's not a defined start and end. This is about a cultural journey, and canned reports you mentioned, we have those, and certainly they're useful. But we're really challenging our business leaders to understand the types of risks that they're writing. More important than, okay, what's my gross written premium, less my loss ratio, plus my expense, right? More than that. And we really look at how we can improve the quality of our data at the point of sale, on the underwriting side. And then certainly on the claim side, at that intake. So it's all about improving our customer experience. Kind of everything dovetails to that for us. From an analytics perspective, understanding as part of submission intake, how we can triage submissions, how we can look at a vast number of submissions and score them, right? And there's some vendors here who was talking to me about machine learning and things of that nature yesterday to help do that. But, that's certainly one of the areas that we focus. But conceptually, Terry, for us, data and analytics is one, and it's about the journey. So we've started a data management committee, again, cross-functional, buy-in at the top. We want to be able to provide our business, really, really specific pieces of information that they can then use to drive their book. Not just how much premium am I writing in a state, but what's my aggregate limit in a zip code and a storm is coming, and what track, if the storm moves 1 mile east or west, what does that mean? Not just to an individual business unit, but to the company as a whole. And so things like that is how we focus, and where we'll continue to deploy resources. We've got a data warehouse that has really, really moved the needle and started getting people in that mindset, but that was just table stakes. And now we're moving to the next phase of really doing a lot of advanced, detailed analytics to cut those slivers of the books for our business and claims folks so they can make important decisions, right, that all tie together to help the customer experience.
Fantastic. So Bruce, as we talk about data being the key to unlocking new opportunities, really, data is king, right? We've talked about that before. Is it fair to say that integration is also a key to accessing the data that's coming from an increasing number of source systems?
No, absolutely. Having a data hub or an enterprise data warehouse or a construct where you can aggregate the data is one thing, but getting the data from the different systems is often the challenge. And having played this game for most of my career, I think, certainly made a nice career out of coming in and helping folks who struggled and failed a few times. And I think one of the things that we've been able to do, and I know we've worked with you on, is creating templates that reflect patterns, regardless of what policy admin system you have. You've got policy numbers and you've got coverage names and deductibles, and a lot of the key data is very similar. And if you can create the right templates and you have the people who really understand the business, it basically becomes a wrestling match with mapping and transformations into key values. And how do you transform that into values that your business can consistently leverage and understand naturally without necessarily having to master the nuances of any individual underlying system, right? Because you want your data to survive well beyond whatever system you happen to be running today. And so that's really always a key. And I think more and more we're going to see, and we have seen over the last 3, 4, 5 years, the leveraging of more standard sets of data. I think in structured data from policy, and common core vendors, you see a lot more leveraging of Accord standards and other things or offshoots of that. And in the IoT world, as you get more into the big data, one of the challenges right now is the lack of consistent constructs from different vendors that you're getting data from, and I think that'll kind of work its way out, I think, over time as people become more adept at leveraging value from that data. I think there'll be more standards introduction there as well, but the integration is so key. But the experience in being able to leverage the patterns so that you don't get caught up in the minutia and can look at things from a big picture is so important.
That's great. Yeah, there's definitely a common theme here, I think. And Pier, I know that the project you were talking about that you recently completed really did require an awful lot of collaboration across your claims value chain. And can you kind of share an overview of that project and what the different roles were and the outcomes?
How much time do we have? Yeah, as I discussed before, we made a move in our TPA operations. And with that, moving over to Transcend Claims Partners, Steve Backman was somebody I've got quite a bit of history with. And so when we were doing the RFP process, I was complaining to him about some of the responses I had seen. And I'd known Steve, and they were doing third-party administrative, but they didn't really have the claims platform. Well, having come in under Caboodle, he said, it may be different now. So he explained to me what they were doing, what we were doing with InsureSoft and Caboodle and other various partners. And, you know, the way he described it, and I think I had a conversation with Jeff, and I was like, well, holy cow, this sounds fantastic, but we're not going to be able to afford this. But, you know, I was fascinated. I thought this could be an incredible opportunity. So they went ahead and submitted for the RFP and ultimately ended up winning it. And the fact that we awarded it, I think, right at 60 days prior to implementation, everybody was gripping pretty tight. As you can imagine, trying to do any type of an implementation in 60 days is aggressive, to say the least. Not to mention the fact that I don't believe InsureSoft had pulled the Diamond platform out of their end-to-end platform before. This was the first time you had taken the claims piece of the system and stood it up by itself. So, but with this, I mean, we're not just talking about the claims system. We're talking about Covineer, which is a BPO operation out of Worcester, Mass. And they were set up to handle our first notice of loss, handle check printing and processing interactions with our banking. Looker is the BI tool, the Diamond system, Transcend handling the claims, everybody having access to the system, and the fact that we literally had it stood up and running in 45 days was nothing short of miraculous. And the fact that it went as smoothly as it did, I mean, we had a very strong game plan going into it. Everybody understood what the costs were going to be and what it was going to take. But the fact is that we've put together something in a short period of time that is as robust as what you could buy off the shelf without having to buy it off the shelf. It's very cost effective for us as a smaller carrier. It's not breaking the bank. It's completely scalable. So it was really, this is one of the best experiences I have had. And I've made transitions like this in the past before, and I mean, that's why I look like this. But if anything was going to grow my hair back, it was probably the process that we went through with InsureSoft and Caboodle and all the various partners.
Fantastic. I think, you know, the common theme here definitely is collaboration across a number of partners. And our partner ecosystem continues to grow. But I think the only way that can work with partners in any business is through an ability to control some of the stuff yourself, using APIs and so forth to really connect multiple systems. And Tarek, I'm wondering how critical that has been in your business with being able to use both APIs and microservices as you tie all of your business components together.
I tell you, that is absolutely crucial. You know, Terry, in your introduction, one of the things you mentioned was when you were an agent, you looked at the carrier that was easiest to do business with. Well, that's how agents operate today, right? And so, you know, one of the things for us, again, I'll talk a lot about digital roadmap and customer experience, but that part is critical. The customer experience, whether that's the end user from an actual insured or through our distribution partners, and leveraging API microservices to integrate data, to pull data from point A and get it into a platform at the point of sale without kind of elongating the process, right? About that ease of doing business. That's critical for us. And so everything we do as we move forward is focused around platforms that support some sort of integration, API, microservices, whatever it is. It has to be there. I mean, that is absolute table stakes for us, because what we can't do is have a delay, right? We can't take 2 days or a day or 2 hours. Some of my team members say, I always push the needle too far. I want everything to be sub-second. That is absolutely what we're looking for. And there's no reason why we can't achieve it. But a big piece of trying to achieve that goal and sustaining that goal is the use of things like APIs and microservices, and we use them all across our value chain. We write from personal auto to very kind of upstream excess and surplus property coverage, specialty property coverage. So we really run the gamut, right? From $1 million accounts to $100 accounts and everything in between. And so when you have that diverse footprint of products and distribution and platforms, being able to have systems that talk together is absolutely essential. So as we evaluate any technology solution, API, microservice capabilities, boy, that really ticks the box for us. And if it doesn't, if a platform doesn't have it, which I'm not sure how many don't anymore because it is table stakes, but we focus a lot in that area, and we're building out internal capabilities as well as working with some of our partners to help us kind of refine our skill sets and take advantage of those microservices and APIs across, again, our entire book of business.
That's great. So Bruce, I know that you see these case studies all the time regarding investments that the Tier 1 and Tier 2 players are making in terms of advanced technologies, how to drive better analytics and more business intelligence. Do you see opportunities for applying those technologies further downstream? Or do you think this will remain a strategic advantage mainly for the bigger players in the space?
No, I think quite the opposite. I think data is the great equalizer in life at this point. And in my 15 years at IBM, I worked with and built data solutions for 7 of the 10 largest P&C insurers in the country, and certainly had a lot of fun playing with 9-figure budgets, getting things done. But at the same time now, the reason I'm at MVP Advisory Group, like you all at InsureSoft, we're very much focused on kind of the mid-tier and the lower end, because data is an equalizer. The ability to create customer experience, digital engagement, and leveraging internal and external data to really drive competitive nature has never been stronger, and I only see that improving. And so I think now is such a sweet spot in terms of giving insurers the ability to kind of get ahead of the game. I think it's going to be very difficult, frankly, to play catch up. I think people who don't take advantage of the opportunities that are there now may be left behind to some extent, but I think customers that are looking with a little foresight and really leveraging what they have both internally and externally to really differentiate themselves have an opportunity to compete on equal footing, and in fact to use data to identify niche markets and opportunities in between the larger players, and to really take advantage of opportunities that they frankly can't fill just because of their size and scale and the way they have to address the market. And so that's really what excites us at MVP. I know you have a lot of the same focus, and so we really enjoy trying to help folks gain that competitive advantage and harness that capability that exists within their companies.
All right, I think we have time probably for one more question, and then we'll open it up. I see we've got at least one question coming in from the audience. So for the last one here, Tarek, I'm going to ask you, I think I've heard that Hallmark is doing a lot of really great work around robotic process automation. And I'd love for you to share with the audience a little bit about how this began and the success you've achieved to date.
Sure. That is, in my role, I'm CIO, but I'm also group head of operations. And so whenever there's an operational problem, more times than not, we can resolve it with the use of technology. And about a year and a half ago or so, we had a backlog, right, in terms of one of our product segments, in terms of kind of processing business and getting things out. And so we took that as an opportunity, took that really as a challenge to figure out how we can address it operationally, and that was a stopgap, so we can throw resources at it, right? Which is what we did. We threw some resources at it, and we really refined the process, understood why the backlog began in the first place, right? So we didn't recreate that same issue. And as part of that, throwing resources at it, we knew that was a short-term solution, but the deliverable is not only clearing up the backlog, but also coming up with a new process, a new workflow process. While that was happening on the operations side, my data management team began to build out an internal capability around robotics and RPA. And so they started doing some testing and doing some really kind of low-level entry work, if you will, on some RPA initiatives, and it really worked really well. And so that was, eye-opening for us, and said, boy, we can actually do this. And so we said, well, we have a problem. A process is broken, but now we've got the right process, and it's very structured in its documentation from a workflow standpoint. Well, let's throw robotics at it. And we did. And so we fixed that backlog, and doesn't it come up anymore? We have, by virtue of using RPA, and this, by the way, I think took 45 days or 60 days for us from the time I signed the contract with the RPA vendor to the time we actually rolled it out in production. And one process is renewals, and we do that all through RPA, and we've seen a significant increase in our retention from a renewal retention perspective. So it's really moved the needle, and those are things kind of circling back to the investment in technology. Boy, that makes my job easier when I have those kind of wins, right? You really get some wind at your back when you go ask for the next round of money to go do something else. So that's just one area. I mean, we use robotics now kind of across our platform. We've got some what we call dumb bots, and we've got some smart bots, and we've got NLP integrated into some of these things, and it really moves the needle. And we've saved, I think the last presentation I did talking about kind of the output of it outside of just the retention increase, but we saved 45,000 FTE hours. And so this continues to grow, and it's very exciting for us. We can redeploy that human capital to do other things as our robotic process continues to evolve, and we find other areas in which we can deploy it. So it's worked out really well.
Wow, that's impressive. That is really impressive. I see that we had one question come in from the audience. I'm guessing somebody in the very back row. I'm thinking, Tarek, that you might be the best of the three, although I'll open this up to any of you. The question is, what is your opinion of low-code development tools and solutions? And do you factor them in when evaluating opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's huge for us. Again, we are relatively small, so from a manpower perspective, we're not, unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of continuously throwing resources at things. We certainly also don't want to be beholden to a vendor, right? Anytime we need a change, that's going to be 4 months or however long it's going to be. So that low code kind of model works really well for us, where we can get our development team to manage a lot of those changes. And certainly there are going to be things that will be changed in a base product that still goes back to the vendor. But even with InsureSoft and kind of the Composer tool, which is, I would consider, a very low-code development solution, that works great for us. And that is something that we look for in any major software that we purchase, because having to rely solely on the vendor, that just doesn't work for our model of speed and getting things to market very, very quickly. And I think one of the nice things about the Composer tool or the InsureSoft platform, in our personal auto segment, we've got to be really, really responsive to rate change, right? We've got to be able to flex as needed. And that kind of model supports it. And that's one of the value adds of the InsureSoft platform for us, is our ability to do some of our own kind of development in that platform.
All right, that was a shameless plug. I didn't mean that. I don't know whose question that was, but I appreciate that feedback. I want to be very respectful of everyone's time, and I believe we are right at that 35-minute mark. So we will wrap up here, but we'll be out in the hallway for a few minutes if there were other questions for any of the panelists. So thank you all for joining us this afternoon, and enjoy the rest of the conference.